It was supposed to be just another ordinary day at work. A hardworking man, dressed in his uniform, focused on doing his job, suddenly found himself the target of suspicion. Out of nowhere, a police officer confronted him, not because he had done anything wrong, but because of the color of his skin. What started as a simple request quickly spiraled into humiliation, fear, and anger. But what happened next would shock everyone watching. How do you prove your innocence when your very identity is questioned?
Marcus had worked at the neighborhood supermarket for almost 5 years. To the regular shoppers, he wasn't just an employee in a blue vest. He was the friendly face who always greeted customers with a smile, the one who helped the elderly carry groceries, and the man who stayed late whenever his team needed him. He was proud of his job, proud that he could provide for his family, and proud to be seen as someone dependable in his community. Every morning, Marcus followed the same routine: wake up early, prepare breakfast for his daughter, and head to the store where he stocked shelves and assisted customers. To him, it was honest work, simple, steady, and respected. Most days passed without incident, filled with laughter from coworkers and small conversations with regulars. But beneath the comfort of routine, Marcus knew that being a black man in America meant that life could change in an instant. Stories of others unjustly accused, mistreated, or profiled were never far from his mind. Yet he never thought it would happen to him. Not here, not in this supermarket where everyone knew his name. That morning seemed no different from any other. Bright lights overhead, the smell of fresh bread drifting from the bakery, and the quiet hum of shoppers moving about. Marcus was restocking a shelf of produce, humming softly to himself when the unexpected happened. A shadow fell across him. A figure stepped closer, and within moments, his ordinary day was about to turn into something far more dangerous and unforgettable.
Marcus placed the last box of apples onto the display, humming softly, when the air around him shifted. A uniformed officer stood only a few feet away, eyes narrowed, posture rigid. At first, Marcus thought it was a customer needing help. But then came the sharp demand, an order for identification. Confused, Marcus straightened. He was in his work vest, name tag pinned clearly to his chest. Customers knew who he was. His manager knew who he was. And yet, this officer looked at him as if he were a criminal trespassing in his own workplace. The officer's voice grew louder, his tone colder. Shoppers nearby stopped to listen. Whispers rippled through the produce aisle. Why him? Why now? Marcus's hands trembled as he reached for his wallet, trying to comply. But the officer's suspicion didn't ease. It deepened. He accused Marcus of lying, of hiding something, of not belonging here. A flush of humiliation spread across Marcus's face. Every pair of eyes in the aisle seemed to burn into him. Customers who once greeted him with warm smiles now stood frozen, unsure whether to intervene or retreat. The place he felt safe, the place that had become his second home, was now a stage where he was treated like a suspect. Marcus tried to explain, pointing to his uniform, his name tag, the produce cart he was unloading. But the officer ignored it all. Instead, he stepped closer, voice sharp, finger jabbing in accusation. The tension in the air grew suffocating, thick with fear and disbelief. Marcus's coworkers peeked from behind the aisles, horrified but hesitant. Some whispered about calling the manager. Others clutched their phones, recording quietly, knowing what they were witnessing was more than just a misunderstanding. It was an injustice unfolding in real time. And in that moment, Marcus felt something shift within himself. He had been patient, respectful, cooperative, but the more he complied, the more he was treated as guilty. His pulse quickened, heart racing between fear and fury. How do you defend yourself when the badge before you refuses to see your humanity? The crowd grew, phones lifted higher. The officer's voice carried louder across the supermarket. The confrontation was no longer private, it was becoming public. every second stretched longer, each word slicing sharper. And just as it seemed Marcus had no way out, no one to defend him, something happened that no one expected.
The officer's voice thundered through the store, echoing across the aisles. He accused Marcus of trespassing, of pretending to be an employee, of refusing to cooperate, even though Marcus's vest and name tag told the truth louder than any words could. The officer's hand hovered near his duty belt, a silent but terrifying threat that this could spiral even further. Marcus felt the weight of every eye fixed on him. His chest tightened. For the first time, the supermarket, once his safe place, felt like a trap. His daughter's face flashed in his mind. What if he didn't make it home tonight? What if this encounter ended the way so many others had? The humiliation cut deep, but deeper still was the rage. Rage at being treated as less than human. Rage at having to prove himself in a place where he had worked faithfully for years. Rage at the silence of those who stood by, too afraid to speak. But just when it seemed Marcus would be crushed beneath the weight of injustice, a shift occurred. A manager stepped forward, his voice steady and clear, confirming Marcus's employment. Others raised their phones higher, their recordings capturing every detail. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, no longer whispers, but outrage. The officer faltered, his authority slipping beneath the pressure of public scrutiny. Still, the damage was done. The fear, the shame, the indignity, they could not be erased. Marcus stood frozen, heart pounding, caught between relief and anger. Yes, he had been spared something worse, but the wound inflicted would not fade easily. And as the officer lowered his hand from his belt, realizing the tide had turned against him, the entire supermarket seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see what would happen next.
The officer eventually stepped back, realizing the tide had turned against him. The manager's words, the cameras raised high, and the united voices of witnesses left no room for his false authority to stand. With a stiff, dismissive glare, he walked away, leaving behind a silence so heavy it was almost deafening. Marcus remained frozen, his body still tense from the storm he had just endured. Relief washed over him, but it was tainted by the sting of humiliation. He had been proven innocent in a place where he should never have been doubted in the first place. His co-workers surrounded him, offering words of support, but the truth was clear. The wound ran deeper than any apology could heal. That day, Marcus didn't just finish a shift at work. He carried home a scar, a reminder that no matter how hard he worked, no matter how honest his life, racism had the power to strip him of dignity in seconds. And it wasn't just about him. His story reflected countless others, stories that never reached a crowd, never got recorded, and never had witnesses brave enough to speak up. The question lingers: how many more lives will be shaken before change truly comes? How many more moments of fear and humiliation must be endured before justice outweighs prejudice? Marcus's story is not just one man's battle. It's a mirror of a larger fight, a call to recognize, to resist, and to speak out. Because silence only strengthens injustice, but voices, united and unafraid, can force accountability. So the next time you witness racism, ask yourself, will you look away or will you stand up?